Hey guys, welcome back. I hope I'm finding everybody in good spirits and good health. It's sunny outside, so hopefully that's going to put you in a good mood. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to look at the scientific revolution. So it makes sense to teach the scientific revolution during this time period because during this Renaissance-ish time period between the 1350s up to the 1650s, we'll give it that 300-year time frame. The big underlining concept during this moment is the idea of questioning. And if you think about what we've done so far, people have kind of questioned their existence in life, talking about humanism, they've questioned their existence in art. We've seen questioning the Roman Catholic Church, which everybody thought that was off limits. So by challenging the church and challenging these other things, it makes sense then the answers that people are going to find or turn to is going to come from science. Science, the one thing that it holds is that it's objective, that it's quantifiable, that it's provable, that there's data that people can use to justify and prove an answer. And during this time period, that's going to be attractive. No longer did you simply have to rely on the church saying it's God's will or it's God's intent or this is just the way that it is. Now you can actually prove something that you're trying to understand by doing research or by observing or by doing testing or proving hypothesis or all those cool things that scientists do. Now, guys, it's important to remember nobody was going against the church. We know what the church was going to do to somebody if they went against the teachings or the ways of the church. They would, charge you. They would find you guilty of heresy. They would find you guilty. They would then excommunicate you, and after you were excommunicated, then you were most likely tortured, or you were burned at the stake. So going against the church really was not an appealing idea, and unfortunately, that's what we found a lot with science. So what happened was at first, the geocentric model. Now, if you guys have been paying attention in earth science, which I know that's a tough deal sometimes, but you find out that the earth is the center of the universe, or at least that's what they believed for centuries. That was the Roman Catholic Church's official stance, that the earth was the center of the universe. Okay, now we're going to fast forward. So there's this German astronomer by Nicholas Copernicus. I know I mentioned his name in one of the previous videos. But so what Nicholas Copernicus does is that he uses observation. So he's going to hang out in his house with his telescope, and he's going to start to study the movement and the motion of planets. So what he realizes and figures out is that the Earth is not the center of the universe. What he figures out and can prove is that the sun is actually the center of the universe, what we would call a heliocentric model. Now, I know you're going to be like, Donnelly, what's the big deal? How is life really changing? And in terms of like day-to-day life, nothing changes. I mean, it's not like all of a sudden people are like floating or like walking on air or something crazy. But what really changes is the fact that what the Roman Catholic Church was saying was wrong. So all of a sudden now people are going to start to question the church again. Very similar to what Martin Luther did. When Martin Luther and everyone now started reading the Bible in common vernacular and saw what the Roman Catholic Church was doing, they're like, wait a minute, we got to change the church. Well, now the same rules apply for science. All of a sudden now, the things that the Roman Catholic Church were guaranteeing as being absolute or correct were wrong. So now all of a sudden it's just like, all right, so if the church was wrong with this, what else is the church possibly going to be wrong with? And that really rattled the church down to the core. And the church gets really nervous about these scientists disproving church teachings. So what the church does then is the church is going to hold on to the fact that Nicholas Copernicus was wrong. They were going to argue and say that he wasn't a good Christian and that he wasn't part of the Roman Catholic Church and that he was a heretic. But obviously people are going to start to question. So things get really kind of thrown upside down when there is this astronomer by the name of Galileo. Okay, so you guys have definitely heard of Galileo before. He's famous for for his telescopes, and he also proved that the heliocentric model was correct. Now, this was really kind of an upsetting thing to the Roman Catholic Church because Galileo actually worked for the church. The way that the church worked, guys, is that they would hire scientists. And basically, what they would use the scientists for is that whatever the scientists discovered, they would kind of use that as a way to justify the teachings that they had been using before. If the church was saying that the sky is blue, and then a scientist would figure out that the sky was blue, um, the Roman Catholic Church would just come back and say, well, see, science proves what we've been telling you guys all along, so just go with it. So very publicly, Galileo is going to, announce his findings, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, this is crazy!" Especially the Roman Catholic Church. He's publishing his findings in common vernacular, so people that can read it. And this is in Italy, so the fact that you're in Italy, you're in Rome. This is a Roman Catholic Church scientist publishing this. Everyone's like, "Man, this is really kind of crazy." So the Roman Catholic Church, of course, true to form, is going to find him. He's going to find him as a heretic. Okay, so they're going to find him as a heretic. They're going to then excommunicate him. They don't go as far as to kill him, so they're not going to burn him alive. But what they do is they take all of his scientific journals, all of his observations, all of his research, and they burn it. They burn all of it so that nobody could have access to it. And they end up taking think of it like a research partner or like co-scientist or whatever, and they're going to burn him alive. So really kind of letting Galileo know to be like, dude, you're on house arrest for the rest of your life. We just killed your buddy. We just destroyed all of your books. Lock it up with this heliocentric model thing. While Galileo is definitely the rock star of the scientific revolution, and the heliocentric model is really the kind of the foundation that most people really kind of rely on and saying is like, this was the most important thing to come out of the scientific revolution, or this is really kind of what marked the scientific revolution. And again, the heliocentric model and proving that correct over the geocentric model was a huge game changer. But there are also other scientists that really kind of contributed to the world in a lot of different ways. And one of my favorite is Sir Isaac Newton. Everybody always kind of gives credit to Newton for one of my favorite things. They're like, oh, Newton discovered gravity. Yeah, he discovered gravity. Newton did not create gravity. Okay, before Isaac Newton, remember he's living in 1642. Before Newton, people were not floating all over the earth. Okay, so gravity had existed long before Newton, and gravity is going to exist long after Newton. So he doesn't create it, but he does discover it. And he discovers the basic principles of gravity by doing the observation under the apple tree. Now, again, guys, that's a little bit of a myth. It's not like dude was just sitting underneath an apple tree one day, gets bonked on the melon, and is like, oh, gravity. Well, that was super easy. What he was doing is that he was observing how quickly apples fell in an orchard to see if there was any rhyme or reason to the speed. And that's when they figure out that gravity is 9.8 meters per second squared, something that we still hold on to today. So again, Isaac Newton was not just some dude chilling in an apple orchard, bumped on the melon, and boom, he creates gravity. No, but he is a scientist that's really starting to understand motion and gravity. His laws of motion impact the way that we understand and teach physics today. So again, like just kind of these big names that we start to understand in our modern world, they were doing these things during the scientific revolution because during the scientific revolution, it was encouraged to think and to explore and to develop theories and to test those theories out and to see what you can prove. And also during this time period, people were receptive to hearing about it, to listening about it, because again, if they were talking about this stuff during the Middle Ages, everyone's going to reject that because you could have been deemed a heretic or it's not going to help you get into heaven. But during the scientific revolution or during the Renaissance and this questioning spirit, people are like, yeah, like give me some new info. It's going to help me understand my place in the world. So a few other things that they're going to start to uncover during the scientific revolution: the idea of botany, the idea of understanding like plants and things like that, medicines that can be derived from plants, and how to make better growing crops, which to feed people, obviously that was important. And a big one that I think during the scientific revolution was the importance of anatomy. Guys, during the opening up a body, so we would call those a cadaver. Opening up a cadaver was very much against all the teachings of the Roman Catholic Church. It was the idea that the body should go whole to heaven to enjoy the afterlife and all of that idea. Well, again, during this time period, people were questioning the church, and people were going against church teachings, and people were saying, well, is the church really right with what it's saying? So scientists start opening up bodies. Because of this, we're going to start to really understand anatomy. And you can question me, like, well, Dolly, why does anatomy matter so much? Anatomy is going to matter because it's going to help us make advancements in medicine. You know, a living person is not going to be like, oh yeah, cut open my insides so you can understand how my intestines work or how, you know, whatever works for inside of our bodies. But using a cadaver is going to give us a tremendous amount of insight into how the human body works, and more importantly, how to fix the human body. So when people get sick or people have disease or whatever else is going on in the world, and that people need medical help, they're gaining more and more insight on how to fix people because they're gaining more insight into how the person or humans work. Another guy who I really liked during the scientific revolution is this guy, Sir Francis Bacon. And I know all of you guys are like, is he the guy that came up with bacon? Because bacon's the best. No, he's not the guy that came up with bacon. But what Sir Francis Bacon did is that he came up with this notion of an inductive reasoning. Essentially, what he did is that he studied how people thought and really started to kind of analyze the way that people were thinking and are there better ways for people to think? Are there better ways to solve problems? Are there strategies and methods that people could be taught to basically make them smarter or at least to give them problem solving abilities that previously they did not have? So we're going to keep seeing this idea of challenging and asking questions. It's going to be applied in politics. It's going to be applied in economics. So really, for the first time in history, people were really willing to challenge the previous norms and really find answers that made sense for them during that time period. And this really was a revolutionary period because a lot of these great, brilliant minds, what they figured out are foundations that really created the modern world. So while you may not be questioning or really appreciating the fact of Newton uncovering, you know, gravity, but or laws of motion from Newton, or appreciating the heliocentric model, it's the fact that these men started thinking about these things, and it encouraged more people to think about more things, to challenge more things, to create new things. And all of a sudden, we break away from sole reliance on the Roman Catholic Church, and now we're actually into this time period of coming up with new things and awesome things and creative things. And that's what's really unique about the scientific revolution. So, guys, I know that this one was brief. That's okay. You're going to have a CRQ that's going to be due for me on Friday. A nice, easy week. You're only going to have one assignment. I hope you guys stay well, stay healthy, and hopefully I'll see you soon. All the best.